Hey, love bugs. It's Dr. Ashley Greer here. I am a former psychologist turned coach that helps women from difficult paths live a hell yes life, a life free of people pleasing, life free of all of that resistance, a life free of codependency. And we're actually here today to talk more about codependency in this series of videos that will help you understand what the heck is codependency and how is it affecting me in my life. The problem with codependency is that most of the time in our culture, it is described in terms of alcoholic, narcissistic, mega dysfunctional relationships, right? When you think about the primary book in terms of codependence, which is Codependent No More by Melody Beattie, amazing book, but it talks about it in terms of alcoholic relationships, having an alcoholic spouse, an alcoholic parent, etc. The problem is a fundamental misunderstanding of what codependence actually is and how far-reaching that it is. You see, codependence probably affects 80% of folks, mostly women. The reason I say mostly women, it also impacts men for sure, but I'm going to talk about women today. The reason it mostly impacts women is because of the way that the patriarchy has really constructed our culture, the way it has really impacted our culture, the way it has really influenced the way we're supposed to function, right? Women in this day and age have been taught that it's our job to keep other people happy, to keep other people around us satisfied, to keep other people around us, their moods managed, right? If there is a lack of happiness in the home, a lot of times people might look to the wife of a marriage. In fact, we've all heard that statement, happy wife, happy life, right? The thing about that is that it's true, because if the wife is happy, then her energy pours out to everyone around her. The problem is that happy wife, happy life thing has gotten distorted into this concept that it's the job of the wife or the woman in the family or the daughter or whoever, the females generally, to ensure that everyone around them is happy. The reason this develops is it's usually due to some kind of dysfunction in your background. It could be something like challenging mental health from a parent or a sibling. It could be something like alcoholism or narcissism, but it's not usually that severe. Sometimes it's even just feeling overly responsible for other people's emotions. When you feel overly responsible for other people's emotions, a lot of times what happens is you take on the job, you take on the duty to help fix everyone else's emotions around you. Fix their emotions, right? You become this helper who almost forces your help on everyone else, makes sure that everyone else around you becomes happy and stays satisfied and is never upset, because you feel as though it's somehow your fault, your burden to bear if everyone around you isn't happy. We see this a lot with moms, because if their parents, if their kids aren't happy, a lot of times they'll blame themselves and say, what am I doing wrong? What's going wrong here? What's the problem here? We see it even in friendships, oh, well, Susie snapped on me the last time I talked to her on the phone, and so what is it that I'm doing wrong? Is she mad at me? What's wrong? Instead of just allowing that person to have their emotional experience, whatever that might be, and to allow that person to move through it without needing to fix other people and to fix their emotional experience and to take care of it for them, to take on that burden for the other person so that we spare them any discomfort or any pain. But the thing is that we all need to experience some degree of pain and discomfort in our life in order to learn, right? You think about the child growing up who touches that hot stove. If they touch that hot stove and they don't experience some kind of pain, they're never going to learn that they'll burn their hand if they keep touching that hot stove. And so what'll happen is they'll keep touching the hot stove. And so when parents operate from this codependent standpoint, what happens is that they end up trying to save their children from experiencing pain. And by trying to save their children from experiencing pain, they can actually end up causing their children not to understand the consequences of their own actions, to fear independence, etc. I have a lot of clients who deal with this with their own children. But I want to get back to the notion of what is codependence. Codependence is essentially this idea that it's your job to take care of other people, that you have to walk on eggshells, that you have to cram yourself into a tiny little box in order to make other people uncomfortable. Codependence is the ultimate in people pleasing. It is living your life so that other people are happy instead of realizing that by making yourself happy, you will have ripples that echo outward in your life and impact everyone around you in positive ways. Now, I'm going to be returning every day here for the next week and answering questions specifically about codependency. What is it? What's the difference between codependency and empathy? How can you recognize a relationship that's codependent versus healthy when it comes to emotional needs, etc.? And these are going to be really nice, short, brief, to the point videos, because this month in July in my membership space, the Abundance Revolution, we're talking all about codependency. We're going to have 3 one-hour trainings on codependency, what it is, how it impacts relationships, how to get into emotional, impactful romantic relationships that aren't haunted by or controlled by codependency, how to work with your ambivalence towards intimacy, because that's a lot of times what happens with codependency is we crave intimacy, we crave closeness, but at the same time we put up barriers whenever we feel that someone isn't respecting us enough. And so we vacillate between getting too close and pushing people away, fear of overwhelm, all of that stuff. And so we're going to be talking about all of that, and we're going to be talking about how codependency impacts money, how it impacts, our work, how it impacts our work with clients, if you're a healer or in the healing professions at all. And we're going to be going way in depth, and we're going to be doing several group coaching calls on it. It's going to be an amazing experience. But to lead up to that, because we don't get started until next week, Friday, which is what day? Next, I have to open up my calendar. Next week, Friday the 13th. Nope, that's the time in Thailand. Next week, Thursday the 12th, which is the time in the US and UK and everything. But in Australia and Thailand, where I am currently, it's the 13th of July, 2018. We are actually going to dive in with the first training, and I want you to have an opportunity to join us live, to ask any of your questions live on those trainings, because I do them live in the private Facebook group for this low-cost membership. And I want you to come and join us, because we're going to be knocking codependency out of the park. And this is what I call everyday codependency. This isn't the kind of codependency you've learned about anywhere else that's about toxic relationships, narcissistic relationships, alcoholic relationships, etc. This is the kind of codependency that most of us carry around, that most of us feel burdened with because of the way that we've all been socialized within our culture. Now, I hope you join us there, and even if you can't, join me here for the next week so that you can learn all about codependency, all about what it is, what it means to have issues with everyday codependence, as this is something that I'm actually writing a book about, because I believe that we need to blow the lid off of how this impacts our lives so that we stop living our lives for other people and we start living our lives for ourselves, so that we can finally be happy and we can finally help people the way we're really meant to help people, by becoming a beacon of light. All right, I will see you guys tomorrow. All right, till then, bye.